This is the Play for Dream MR, an ultra high-end $2,000 VR headset that could have been perfect, and yet it manages to stumble in ways that I wasn't expecting. Now, after well over a month of testing and gathering hundreds of your questions from Reddit, here's my full review. Let's start with probably the best one: what the f is Play for Dream? Who makes it? Elegantly said, by the way, Wooden Sweet. It's a Hong Kong-based company which used to be called YVR, and if that still doesn't ring a bell, you're not alone, because they didn't really sell much, if at all, outside of China. Back to the Play for Dream MR itself, it has every possible feature. Its inside-out track includes 4K per eye OLED screens, pancake lenses, eye tracking, high-quality pass-through, wireless PCVR streaming, and a lot more. And we'll get to all of that in this video, but let's first get the obvious out of the way. This headset is incredibly well built and feels very premium from the second you open the box. Let's start with the screen and optics. This uses two 4K OLED panels with 90Hz refresh rate with pancake lenses in front of them. I got a lot of questions from you on Reddit about the field of view, and the stated field of view they give is 103 degrees, and in practice it feels decent. Nothing outstanding, just okay, but let's actually test it and get some real numbers. Using Test HMD, I get 102 degrees horizontal and 86 degrees vertical. When it comes to binocular overlap, using WinFOV, I got 85% stereo overlap, which is actually pretty good. Not sure why WinFOV sees this as a Quest 3, but let's move on. Now take those numbers with a grain of salt, because not only are they specific to my face shape NIPD, which is 67mm by the way, but they also highly depend on the facial interface, and I'll talk about comfort in a minute, because there are some serious issues here that, while solvable, are not really acceptable for a headset at this price. Going back to visuals, Rostianochkin says he wants to know about the lenses and their quality. Well, the lenses are okay overall, but the sweet spot is not nearly as good as something like the Quest 3, which is still top dog for its lenses. Next up, Green One Trail Mix asks about color banding, and this is again something I don't quite understand Play for Dream's decision on, because by default there's a chromatic aberration toggle in the settings that's set to off. That makes banding and chromatic aberration really damn bad, but turning that setting on magically fixes everything. So that begs the question, why is there a toggle for it? Like, are there people who want worse visual quality? Anyway, next question comes from Octoplow, and it's about lens glare and sweet spot. And since I've already talked about the sweet spot, let's talk glare. When you initially boot up the headset, you'll see the Play for Dream logo and think to yourself, holy mother of glare. But somehow, when actually using it and in games, the glare is still there, but pretty minimal. Even in the glare test and Test HMD, it's fine. Not sure what's going on with the boot up screen, but anyway, all good in the glare department aside from that. Now, in terms of brightness, contrast, and overall colors, this is where the Play for Dream MR really shines, because the visual quality is outstanding on these OLED displays. Everything from super bright scenes to nighttime environments looks incredible. That is, as long as you have it aligned properly to your eyes. Which leads me into the comfort section, and then we can move on to discussing PCVR performance, eye tracking, standalone capabilities, and other aspects of the Play for Dream MR. Now, Gregassi and Lugo are asking the right questions here, because a fantastic headset is nothing if comfort is bad, and well, there's a lot to unpack here. I test VR headsets for a living now, and this made me question my sanity multiple times, because I could just not understand how to place this on my face to get both good image quality and decent comfort. Now, the headset itself weighs 650 grams and houses a 5060 mAh battery in the back here. This makes it extremely well balanced, which is a big plus, but there's one massive issue that I need to address here. When I first got the headset, within 5 minutes I thought this review was gonna be just me tearing them a new one for 10 minutes straight. Why? Well, because despite Play for Dream obviously wanting to sell this to Western markets, the facial interface it comes with is not designed for Western face shapes, like, at all. It's way too narrow, it digs into your nose, and maybe most importantly, makes it absolutely impossible to properly align your eyes with the lenses due to the shape it has. Now, after contacting Play for Dream, turns out they're aware of it and currently working on a Western-style facial interface, but For some reason beyond my understanding, they're still selling this headset despite knowing it'll be borderline unusable for most people outside of Asia. Now there is a 3D printed option you can go for, and they sent me one along with a prototype of the Western style facial interface that got rejected by their engineers, so I'm not sure why they sent it to me, but anyway. Both alternatives are better than the stock one, with the 3D printed one being the best out of the bunch, and as Sensolar put it, it literally saves this headset, which I absolutely agree with. But come on, you're paying $2,000 for a headset and you have to 3D print an interface, superglue magnets to it, and attach the cushion with Velcro tape. That's just ridiculous to me. Okay, after all that, I feel like we should talk about the things this headset does really well, because there are plenty, and it's why I still think this might be worth considering if everything I've mentioned so far is okay for you. Okay, so let's get into the meat of actually using the Play for Dream MR. Now, in terms of its standalone capabilities, it rocks a Snapdragon XR2 Plus Gen 2 with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. When I initially saw that the operating system is an Android-based Vision OS-inspired design, I was not expecting much. But I've gotta say it's extremely well refined, and from a UI and UX perspective, I actually like this way more than I like the design of Meta's implementation of Android. It's clean, it's super responsive, and very easy to navigate. Hand tracking also works surprisingly well, and in conjunction with the eye tracking, it does feel very reminiscent of Apple's Vision Pro. You can simply look at icons or buttons and with a quick pinch be able to swiftly move through menus, start or close apps, or adjust settings. I got a very good question from Enigmatic here. Is it worth it for standalone gaming and mixed reality only? How limited is their standalone library? Well, the library is pretty limited, but you do have some of the most popular games available on other headsets. The only issue is that you'll be locked in the ecosystem of a relatively new company, so your games library will be stuck here. Now, love 'em or hate 'em, at least Meta is sure to release a new headset every few years, and with them starting to license Horizon OS to other manufacturers such as Asus, I'm at least hoping the library will carry over as well, giving you a lot more freedom. For mixed reality, there's not really much there outside of just using it for pass-through related tasks like productivity or media watching, which I'll be covering in more detail a bit later in the video. So for this price, I'd say no, it's not really worth it if you don't also own a VR-ready capable PC. And talking about PC VR, let's dive a bit deeper into this topic, because I think most people looking to potentially get this will mainly be using it as a PC VR headset, at least based on how many questions were related to this on my Reddit post. Now, to kick things off, this can do both wired and wireless PC VR. Now, I'm genuinely curious, would you take compression over DisplayPort, or do you prefer to go wired for maximum fidelity? Let me know in the comments. Well, the Play for Dream MR uses a USB-C connection for wired PC VR, which means compression will still be a thing. I did try using it with the Meta Link cable, and it runs great and it does look better than the Quest 3, for example, no doubt about it. But it's running at a higher resolution as well, so that's not really a big surprise. And to start answering some questions as well, what about when running it at the same resolution as a Quest 3? Well, it might be due to the more powerful XR2 Plus Gen 2 chip inside that can likely encode and decode faster, or maybe due to the OLED screens, but it does look a tiny bit better even at the same resolution as the Quest 3. Now, is it 4 times the price better? Absolutely not. And SD456 as well as Compound Interest to answer your questions about the Play for Dream versus the Beyond 2. When it comes to visuals, it isn't even close, and I wouldn't have expected it to be, since the Beyond 2 is connected via direct DisplayPort connection to your PC, so there's no compression involved, while this uses a USB-C cable that simply does not have the same bandwidth or speed to provide the same quality of image. And that's available for any other dedicated PC VR headset as well. Believe me, I don't enjoy the wire either, and we're gonna dive into wireless capabilities in a sec, but if PC VR is your main platform and you don't mind the wire, then just get one that's native to it. Moving on to wireless PC VR streaming, they have their own app, but I actually preferred using Virtual Desktop. Now, if you want a more in-depth comparison between Virtual Desktop and their own app, I'm happy to make a video, so let me know in the comments. But so far, Virtual Desktop's new Monster preset has been absolutely incredible, and Also, if you're spending this kind of money on a headset, paying 20 bucks on virtual desktop shouldn't be that big of a concern. Now, to give you an idea of my system and settings, I'm using a PC with a 7950 X3D processor, 64 gigs of RAM, and an Asus Astral RTX 5090. The headset does support Wi-Fi 7, but I'm using it connected to a dedicated Wi-Fi 6E router. In Virtual Desktop, I'm using AV1 as the preset, and again, it might be the updated chipset powering the Play for Dream, but latency is considerably lower than when using my Quest 3 on the lower Godlike preset on the same PC. And the visuals are extremely crisp, there's no motion blur or color issues, and it just looks so good. But gaming is just one of the use cases, so Murky Course asks about productivity and movie watching use cases. So let's start with productivity, such as using multiple monitors for work. Well, don't get me wrong, it's great, but for this particular scenario, I don't really know why you'd pick this over a Quest 3. It's a lot more expensive, and while clarity is a bit better and of course the OLED screens are easier on the eyes, I don't think these improvements justify the cost if you're only looking for it for productivity. Now, when it comes to movies and watching videos online, this thing looks really good. The OLED screens and lenses make it fantastic for these activities, but again, due to the cost, I consider these an added bonus rather than a main reason to buy it, if movies are your #1 priority. As you'd expect, with the OLED screen, good lenses and wireless capabilities, PC VR gaming is where it's at for the Play for Dream MR, and I'll go over the controllers and tracking in a sec to round things off. But first, I've gotta mention the biggest drawback when using this for either standalone or wireless PC VR, and as you might have already guessed it, yeah, it's the battery. Now, at this resolution and with a relatively small 5000 mAh battery, this thing eats it up like nobody's business. And in all of my testing, with it at about 80 to 90% brightness, I can barely get around 1 hour of battery life. Now, it does support fast charging at up to 30 watts, and while that's not the end of the world, I would have loved to see a more thoughtful design. Maybe something similar to the HTC Focus Vision that has the hot swappable battery in the back. Now let's go over a few other features that are worth discussing, starting with the controllers and the tracking quality. Well, I'm happy to report that I have zero complaints here. The controller's shape is super ergonomic, they're lightweight but not so much that they feel cheap, and the haptics are really good and overall feel like a quality controller. Now, when it comes to the tracking, I've not had a single issue with the headset or controller in all of my testing. It's all really been flawless, and I'd say it's on par with something like the Quest 3, which is a huge compliment. Now, I've touched on this earlier as well, but the Play for Dream also features eye tracking as well as automatic IPD adjustment, and honestly, packing all this tech in a 650-gram headset is exceptionally good. The eye tracking is responsive in menus and such, and can be used in social VR applications like VR Chat, but I think there's still some work to be done on the software side of things because it's far from perfect at this time. Dynamic foveated rendering also works, so you don't need an RTX 5090 to take full advantage of the visuals of this headset. So the Play for Dream MR does tick a lot of the boxes of what I would have wished for in a Quest 4 or rather a Quest Pro 2. OLED screens, eye tracking, great form factor, good weight, and decent comfort with a few tweaks. The software is solid for both standalone and PC VR, and while it is missing things like a native DisplayPort connection and a bit more flexibility when it comes to the battery, I think it all boils down to the price. The standard pricing for this is $2,000, including the controllers, but they are running a back-to-school campaign right now that shaves off another $100. But I can't not mention that for around the same money you can get a Quest 3 and a Big Screen Beyond 2 or Pimax Crystal Lite, which would cover both standalone PC VR, productivity, and movie watching. Now, obviously, each one of these alternatives comes with positives and negatives of their own, and I'll leave some reviews at the end of this video for you if you want to check them out. So, who is this headset actually for? Well, here's a quick recap with 3 highlights and 3 potential deal breakers you should be aware of. First off, the OLED screens are gorgeous, and that's probably the biggest advantage of this headset. Secondly, the build quality is absolutely rock solid, and while I wish they had the option of using third-party straps, it is comfortable and well balanced, so overall good. Third, the wireless PC VR capabilities are extremely good, so if that matters to you, it's also a big plus. Now, let's go over the 3 most important negatives. First off, and this is a big one and would be an absolute deal breaker for me, no refunds. None. at $2,000, that's insane. Secondly, it's the battery. I mean, yes, it charges fast and you can keep it connected to a power bank, but around 1 hour of battery life is just way too low to even consider using this without some sort of other solution to power it. Finally, on the negatives, it's the lack of a DisplayPort connection for wired PCVR. It's great to have wireless PCVR, but to fully take advantage of these displays, and at this price point, it would have been a must to have that. The Play for Dream MR is an overall impressive package, and they are constantly pushing out software updates to make it even better. Now, if they come out with a good facial interface for us Westerners, or if you're okay with printing the one designed by Sir Dominic, then yeah, it's worth considering for those who want an all-in-one package for standalone games, productivity, and movies, as well as a solid PCVR headset. Now, if you decide the Play for Dream is right for you, I've left both affiliate and non-affiliate links in the description. I would appreciate your support, but I'm also not gonna hold it against you if you use the non-affiliate links, because that's why I'm giving you the choice. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments, and hope you found this helpful and at least a bit enjoyable. So here are some other headset reviews for you to watch, but only if you feel like it. I'll catch you soon, guys. Cheers.